When I was still a witch, there was something I learned that still chills my bones. Before a spell is cast, before a sacrifice is made, there's always a question. You see, witches never act blindly. They ask questions, very specific ones. Because every question opens a spiritual door. And tonight, I reveal the 5 creepy questions witches ask before casting their spells. These are not myths. I was there, in the covens of Nigeria, in night meetings in Kenya. I heard them. And I saw what those questions did to people's lives. Stay until the end, because knowing these questions could protect you and your family from unseen attacks. Section 1, the first question, who do they belong to? Before any spiritual attack begins, the first question the coven asks is this: who does this person belong to? Because no witch attacks randomly. They check for spiritual ownership. If you belong to Christ or to the world. When I served darkness in Lagos, we couldn't touch certain people. When we mentioned their names, fire surrounded them instantly. But for those who lived without covering, who had no spiritual identity, their names stayed unprotected, open for manipulation. Psalm 91 verse 1 says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Testimony 1, the market woman from Ibadan, Nigeria. In Ibadan, there was a woman who sold vegetables. She mocked prayer, saying, "I don't believe in all this church talk." Her neighbor, a witch, began to whisper her name in our meetings. The question was asked, who does she belong to? No voice answered from heaven, so we proceeded. Within 2 weeks, her goods began to rot mysteriously. She lost her business and her health. It wasn't coincidence. Because when there is no spiritual covering, you become a target. Section 2, the second question, what do they fear most? Fear is a door. Witches study it carefully. Before any spell, the coven asks, what do they fear most? Because fear is faith in reverse. It empowers the darkness the same way faith empowers light. In Kenya, I attended a ritual near Mombasa. A young girl's picture was placed in a clay pot. The high priestess asked, what does she fear? Her mother replied, she fears losing her job. Immediately, that was the area we attacked. Within a month, the girl lost her position. And her confidence collapsed. Witches know, once fear takes root, you destroy yourself without them lifting another finger. Testimony 2, the taxi driver from Nairobi. There was a taxi driver in Nairobi who feared accidents. He spoke it every day, I just pray I don't crash one day. A neighbor, secretly in witchcraft, used that confession as a doorway. During a meeting, she said, he's already spoken his fate. A small accident followed, nothing serious. But fear entered his heart. Weeks later, fear became obsession. He couldn't drive without shaking. Eventually, he quit his job and fell into poverty. The witches never had to touch him again. That's how powerful fear is when it's spoken. Section 3, the third question, what have they touched? Many spells begin with objects. So witches ask, what have they touched recently? Because what you touch can link your energy. Your hair, clothes, even gifts can carry spiritual signatures. When I was active in Port Harcourt, we often targeted people through gifts. We would pray over jewelry, money, or even food. Then say, whoever touches this belongs to us. And when they accepted it, the covenant was sealed. Deuteronomy 7 verse 26 says, do not bring a detestable thing into your house. Testimony 3, the bride in Kenya. A young bride in Kisumu received a wedding gift. A beautiful necklace from an old family friend. That night, she dreamed of a dark figure placing the same necklace around her neck. The next morning, she fell sick. Doctors found nothing wrong. Later, a pastor prayed and the necklace burned as they anointed it with oil. The sickness vanished instantly. That was when she realized. What you touch can connect you to covenants you never agreed to. Section 4, the fourth question, Who do they trust? This one is the most dangerous. Because witches rarely attack alone, they work through relationships. Before a spell is cast, they ask, who do they trust? Because trust opens your guard. Once someone close becomes an agent, you open the door willingly. In my dark days in Abuja, we learned that love and trust were the easiest channels. A trusted friend, a lover, even a prayer partner, if compromised, can deliver you into bondage. Testimony 4, the pastor's wife in Abuja, Nigeria. A pastor's wife had a best friend who was secretly jealous of her. The friend began visiting at night with spiritual gifts, oils, candles, bracelets. Each item looked harmless. But behind the scenes, she had taken them from a shrine. Within months, the pastor's marriage collapsed. When the truth was exposed, the friend confessed, I didn't hate you, I was instructed to gain your trust first. That's why discernment is not suspicion, it's survival. Section 5, the fifth question, when are they weak? The final question witches ask is, when are they weakest? No one is attacked at random. They study timing, emotional breakdowns, sickness, grief, heartbreak. That's when people forget to pray, and that's when darkness strikes. In our meetings in Ghana, we waited for those moments of silence. When people stopped praying because they were tired or discouraged. That's when attacks were most effective. But there were some people who never left their watch. Even in pain, they whispered, Jesus. And that single word shattered our entire plan. Testimony 5, the widow from Nakuru, Kenya. A widow in Nakuru lost her husband suddenly. The witches in her village planned to afflict her with madness. They asked, when will she break down? But every night, through tears, she prayed, Lord, even if I don't understand, I still trust you. Instead of madness, peace surrounded her. When I later met her after leaving witchcraft, I realized her pain became her shield. Because even in weakness, faith speaks louder than fear. These 5 questions may sound simple, but they are the keys witches use to open spiritual doors. Who do they belong to? What do they fear most? What have they touched? Who do they trust? When are they weak? If you can answer these questions in light of Christ, you will close every door before darkness even knocks. If you belong to Jesus, you are already covered by His blood. If you live without fear, you become invisible to the enemy. If you guard what you touch and who you trust, your altar will always burn bright. And if you remain steadfast, even in pain, the powers of darkness will flee. I was once on the other side. Now I expose their secrets so you can walk in freedom. If this message opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, subscribe. And let's keep revealing what hides behind the veil. Because truth, no matter how dark, always sets people free.